Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the weekly Daily podcast. Thanks for joining me today. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about as usual, per usual. Whether it's interesting or not, that'll be up to the viewer. That'll be up to you. I'm hoping this sounds okay after I record this in post. Hopefully, it sounds okay in your ears. I'm using the same recorder I have, but the settings were reset, and I'm pretty sure I got the settings back to what I need to for the podcast. But I'm hearing a little feedback or a little noise in the background, and so hopefully you guys don't hear that. If you do, you know what? Maybe that'll make it more interesting. Who knows? But good to be here. Just changed the batteries out. We're good. It's cold in here. I might have to cover myself with a blanket because I've said it the last 3 or 4 episodes, but fall is here. Fall is here. It's mid-October, and we got the Halloween season coming up. It's getting chilly. It's sweater season. If I'm being honest with you guys, I've entered a new phase in my life, which is the sweater phase. Oversized sweaters. I've always been a very vanilla wardrobe kind of guy. Not much fashion sense. Don't really have cool clothing or style. But I'm moving into and have bought a couple sweaters recently, and it feels good. You know what? It feels like this is where I should be at this point in my life, just in my 30s, wearing sweaters. So, you guys enjoying the fall season? You guys wearing sweaters? Any big sweater fans here? I also I got a couple sweaters. I got a new pair of shoes for Prime Day. Prime Day happened last week, and I bought a new pair of New Balance, different color, to try to have two. I have a gray pair right now, and I got a darker color here. And you know what? I tried them on, and I said, shouldn't have bought these. Okay, it was one of those where it was like $75 originally, marked down to 43. And so your stupid brain goes, let's get them. Dude, what a deal. And you get them and you go, I mean, these are $40 shoes to start out with. Should have bought them for 15. They're squeaking like crazy. Okay, you put them on, you can just tell. You go, this material is not $75 material. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But we'll see. I think the color scheme will maybe help certain outfits pop a little bit more. Trying to get my sweaters to pop with some shoes that have nice colors that complement. I don't know about, if you're not watching the video, you won't know what I'm talking about. But this sweatshirt I have, I'm not sure I like this color blue. It's fine, but there's certain colors that we all know that I think complement your skin color better, or just how you look, your complexion. And I'm more of a fan of like a light baby blue. I think that fits well, which probably fits a lot of people pretty well. This is kind of an odd off blue, and it reminds me a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with J.C. Penney. Hopefully you are. If not, where have you been living? But J.C. Penney, big department store, like a cheaper Nordstrom's or Dillard's, or it's like a Macy's. They don't have, JCPenney doesn't have a Thanksgiving Day parade though, so it's like a poor Macy's. Although they're all going to be out of business in the next 10 years. Who's shopping at these places? Do you guys shop at are you guys going to the mall and keeping these stores alive? Who is going? But JCPenney, they if you're familiar, a lot of them have, I don't know, I would assume maybe it's their own brand, but actually it might not be. But they're dress shirts. If you go there, they got a ton of clothing, dress shirts included. And the color schemes they had, for not even schemes, just the solid colors they chose for their button-up shirts are disgusting. disgusting. And I'm not a fashion guy. I just admitted that, okay? I'm Mr. Vanilla. But the colors were it was like really in your face colors, but not in a good way. It was like very bright, dark, bright color. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe how gross these colors were. If you know, you know. If you've been in there, but it's just one of those where, when you're shopping and you're like, "Oh, this shirt, it fits well. I like whether it's a design or just whatever it is, you go, fits well, feels good, blah blah blah, crosses off all these things." But then you're like, the 3 or 4 colors you chose are so dumb. Who's buying these colors? Like, it blew my mind. I used to go shopping at JCPenney a decent amount because when I worked as a leasing consultant, they gave us $500 twice a year as a clothing budget because we had to dress like we had to wear suits to work. And so we could go buy suits and button-up shirts and shoes and, just all the clothing. It was a clothing budget. One of the, perks of the job, which it wasn't even a perk. It was like I get paid next to nothing, and now I'm just adding clothes to my closet that I'm not wearing other than to work. What am I going to do with 5 suits and 10 button-ups? Anyways, I'd go to JCPenney because I'm cheap, and it was pretty cheap there, and the colors were just terrible. And to full circle this back around to why I started this, I feel like this isn't fully as gross, but it's just kind of like an off blue where you're like, just give me like a nice baby blue. I don't get it. Some colors just don't need to be on clothing. It's like give me the solid 8 you got. Give me a white, a black, a baby blue, or a whatever kind of red that looks good on the eye. Not some of this like dark red, purple. What are you doing? Okay, who's wearing that? Who do you think you are buying a shirt like that? That's wild. Anyways, I'll get off the clothing rant and move more into just what I've been up to. It's been a fun last week. It's been a bit of a recovery week in a lot of ways. I got back from Kansas City a little over a week ago, about a week ago exactly. And yeah, feels good to be home for a second. I've been on the road a decent amount, probably like a week out of every month for the last couple months, and just you hitting it hard. You're out there doing the thing where if you're a comic listening to this, you're probably doing the same thing. You're working during the day and then you're working during the night, and it's fun, it's great, but also it can be exhausting especially when you add long drives and stays out of your own bed into the equation. So I was a little tired. My stomach was a little messed up, but I feel like I've gotten it under control, and I'm feeling good. I had added some carbs back into my diet. I've added some nice food treats. I think I talked about last time on the podcast. I have been making these date pecan coconut flake balls, where you food process dates and pecans. That's it. Add a little water to help mix it. And then I just roll that into a ball, and then I roll the ball over coconut flakes, and then I put that in the freezer. And let me tell you what, delicious. Okay, very, very good. And here's the issue. Pretty expensive. Okay, I bought, to give you an example, a bag of dates, I think, is about $10. A little carton, not even a carton, whatever you'd call a little container of pecans is about $10. And I mixed all those together, rolled into about 15 balls. So you're talking about $20, 15 balls. I'll try my best to only eat 5 in a day. If I'm I'm not being careful, I'll eat all 15 in one day. But, I guess it's only $7 a day, roughly. But it's a snack. I don't know. It's for your health, okay? I'm trying to get those healthy fats. It's also a treat. I'm not having the treats right now. And hopefully never again. Ice cream is delicious, but also, what else feels delicious? Feeling good, baby. Feeling energetic and not bad in my tummy area. So the date balls have been good. Had Brussels sprouts, and Brussels sprouts kind of messed my stomach up too. I'm starting to find out that, boy, is my stomach weak, okay? You're like, I'm tough. I'm a tough, and then I eat 4 Brussels sprouts, and I'm like, I don't know if I can go out tonight. I'm feeling a little gassy, and my stomach hurts, and, I hear the ambulance is outside right now. They heard the Brussels sprout talk. They said, we better hear somebody whining about his stomach. We better get there. But yeah, getting the meal prep in check, just having the hamburgers and like the meat, the nice healthy meat, and some just regular veggies, some avocado. That's been great. I'm adding. I'm doing oatmeal some in the morning. I don't eat breakfast much, if ever. But I'm starting to realize that based on my schedule, I might need to start doing it a little bit more, because a lot of times I'll eat lunch and then I'll eat dinner. It's 2 meals. But if I eat lunch around 11 or 12, and then I try to eat dinner before I leave after work to go out to open mics and shows, so I have to eat by like 4:30. I'm just not that hungry if I've eaten at 12. And then, by the time I get home, maybe it's 10 or 11. I'm hungry, but it's late. And so I might have to try to squeeze another meal in, do breakfast. That might make the most sense. But here's another thing, guys. I'm excited for this. We'll see how it turns out. But I got, this advertising. I didn't got. I decided to do this. But I ordered a subscription to AG1, Athletic Greens 1. I don't know why. I don't know what the 1 stands for, but I'm sure you've heard of it if you've listened to podcasts at all. And if not, if this is the only podcast you listen to and you've never listened to other podcasts, then wow, that's wild. That's statistically unlikely. But if that's the case, AG1, Athletic Greens, it's a supplement. It's a scoop. I guess you do a scoop mix, make like a little shake thing. And it's just got a bunch of vitamins, minerals, and healthy things in it. And I was listening to Andrew Huberman's podcast. He's like a guy at Stanford who's like very smart, does a lot of research on like health stuff. And I think how that relates to brain activity and stuff like that. But I just started listening to his podcast. Like I literally listened to the first episodes yesterday, which I've listened to a lot of his stuff. You see the clips on Instagram and stuff like that. But listen to the first podcast yesterday, and he was just talking about AG Green. I just happened to be Athletic Greens. I just happened to be in front of my computer, and I was like, you know what? Health is a priority for me. I've been taking the steps to do as much as I can to really get in a good routine and be as healthy as possible. And so I was like, you know what? Let's try this out. Let's try. So I ordered, it's like $100 a month subscription-based thing, which is a pretty big, that's a lot. I need to cancel my Planet Fitness membership because I haven't gone there for months. I need to maybe try to see if I can tighten up the budget. Not that $100 a month is going to ruin me, but it just digs into the savings that I'm trying to put away. And so I may look into other options as far as eliminating a couple, if I have subscription-based things, or a couple things to try to have this come into my life and my budget and not affect it as much. Which again, $100 a month, I can swing it. Okay, I'm very frugal. This is one of the bigger purchases, I guess you could say, that especially subscription based, by far the biggest. But going to try it out, and I'm curious to see if I feel a big difference. I've gone through periods of my life where I've been very vigilant about taking vitamins, and over the last few years, vitamins have not really been a big part of my life. And I think there's a lot to be said with, if you're just eating as healthy as possible, you're probably getting decent nutrients and vitamins, things like that. But also, I think all of us as humans nowadays are missing out, or probably low, on a lot of important vitamins. So I think the AG1 can hopefully, we'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. But I'm feeling good now. I am feeling good. I'm gaining that confidence back on stage, feeling more consistent with the healthy eating. I've been running more. I think I ran 3 days in a row. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles. 12 miles in 3 days. Clip it. No, but that's been good. It's with the cooler temperatures, honestly, I'm not a fan of fall. I'm not a fan of cold weather, but I do have to say, as much as I complain about it, running when it's like 50 to 60 degrees is very, very pleasant. It's ideal for running, because I used to run during the summer where it's like 90, 95 degrees, and it feels good. You get that sunlight, and you just get your short sleeve shorts on, and you're just soaking in the sun. But I would run at like a 9:30 to 10-minute mile. I was going very slow. And I probably wasn't in the best shape. Certainly not the best shape I've ever been in, so I'm running on the slower side of things, but also, if I tried to push it a little bit more with the heat, it's just, my body didn't want to do that. Now, when it's 50 to 60, I can go out there and run, and then I can run at a much quicker pace, sub 9 minutes. I'm not racing anybody, but then the biggest difference I'm feeling is when it's cooler. A lot of times it takes a second for my body to warm up, and if it's hot, I just get hot. It's tough to push it anyways. But when it's cooler, if I run 2 or 3 miles, at that point my body is like ready to go. So it's kind of like fully warmed up. So now that I'm trying to run a little bit longer than 3 miles, 4 or 5, hopefully build up from there and maybe sign up for a race at some point later this year or early next year, then my body is like loose to really go for it, and I'll usually go pretty quick on the last mile and run the, sub 8-minute mile or something, which again is not incredible. I'm not trying to brag over here. It's not great, but it feels good to see the times go down a little bit. Because during the summer I was like, man, I think I've just like hit an age where I'm the slowest person ever now. I guess that's what happens when you turn 35. When you turn 25, you can rent a car. When you turn 35, you're going to need to rent a car because your running is very slow. You see that? Improv. That was the best I could do. The best I could do, guys. I'm trying to banter by myself in this humble abode. I watched some football yesterday. Yesterday was a pretty productive day. I stayed in. I went for a run, but I stayed in to get a handful of things done. I had to get stuff done yesterday, guys, and I still have quite a bit to do, but it felt good. It was the first weekend in a while where I had some time at home to like work on stuff. It's just been go, 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 which has been great. But I feel like, you get behind on things and not writing as much as I should be or as much as I want to. And so it felt good to get some stuff done. My fantasy football team, I'll tell you this. My record is pretty good. I think I'm 4-1-1. Somehow I tied, which is crazy in fantasy football because it's like we got this. the point system is like to a tenth of a decimal, a tenth to the 10th. So like I think it was 135.5 to 135.5. It's not very common. Anyways, 4-1-1, but my team is not putting up big numbers. I keep getting lucky. I'm playing against other teams that are also scoring like very low amounts, so I'm squeaking out these wins. But it's been frustrating because I feel like I have a pretty good team, but they're not performing. Okay, so if you're listening, Bijan Robinson, okay, and Joe Burrow and Tony Pollard, who is playing tonight, get it together. Okay? What, I drafted you early. Don't betray me like this. So, hopefully they heard that and they'll get it together. But this weekend was nice. And I'll tell you why I had most of the weekend free in just a second. But I'm going to back up before that, tell you guys about my week in comedy, what I've been up to. Went out to a handful of open mics. Went out to the Irish Rover on Monday. Did that open mic, which I guess was my first day back from Kansas City. So just dipping my toes back in, getting back in the scene, saying some stuff on stage. Then Tuesday, I went to 3 mics. I went to, what did I do? I did Mutiny, Deep Roots, and Scruffy's. First time doing Scruffy's in a while. Ugh, man, that was a sad one. But I'll tell you this: I haven't done 3 mics in a night in a while, but I'm working on a new story, and I am very excited about it. And so I'm trying to get those reps in. I did the 3 on Tuesday. I think I took Wednesday off. Did a show on Thursday and then a mic after that. So I've been getting the reps in with this new story, which has been, okay, let's talk about this. Actually, I'm not even going to get into the story. I'm just teasing. This is podcast 101, not to do. Don't say I'm going to do this and then go, I'm not going to do that. But what I'll tell you about the story is it's a story that's it's about a very embarrassing moment when I was in high school, and how that has somewhat affected my ability to use the public restroom now in my adult life. I'll leave it at that. That's probably, that's enough, right? But it's a very long story, way long. I mean, stories I've said in the past are very difficult to figure out because you need so many elements to be working for you. I mean, for a story to work in a stand-up setting, you have to capture people's attention right away. So you have to have something that makes them go, I want to listen to this story. Then you have to have jokes, obviously, during the story. And then you have to have like an ending that ties it all up and is a very funny ending. And that sounds simple, just saying it 1, 2, 3, just do that. But I've realized that a lot of things that I think are interesting, that are interesting stories, I'll present and just realize like this isn't interesting enough to have people go, we're tuning in for the next 5 minutes. We want to hear more. Like it has to be a very interesting thing that connects with people and makes people want to listen. And then making jokes, it's tough. Making jokes are tough enough on our own. Like to give you an example of what most jokes that I write, the process I go through, I'll write a page or pages. I'll write 8 paragraphs and be like, here's a new joke about whatever topic, about chairs. And then I go do it on stage. And then I do that for a week. And then I realize at the end of the week, okay, 2 out of the 8 paragraphs have punchlines that are worth saying in public and on stage. So then I cut 6 of those paragraphs, and then I do those other 2, and then I write more, and I try to add more, and then I write all this extra stuff, and maybe now I have 3 paragraphs that work like okay. And then after I do that for like a month, I realize, you know what? The 3 paragraphs that are kind of working are only kind of working. And it's like a C or D level joke. It kind of has like structure, but it's just not that funny. You're like, I'm talking about chairs. I mean, you gotta slap a punchline if you're talking about a chair. But no matter what, you gotta have punchlines that are good. And just so much of it is trial and error and realizing at the end of the day, like a lot of this stuff isn't good enough. That's why you have to keep at it, keep doing it, keep replacing stuff, keep writing, keep adding on, subtracting, changing until you find something that is good. And I say that because let's say I get 3 paragraphs after all this time and I get 3 paragraphs. That's like a minute bit that I have just replaced all this stuff, and it's about a topic. It's not about a story that has a specific storyline that you're trying to go on. Like I could talk about chairs and just be like, here's one funny thing about chairs, and then add one funny experience I had with chairs, and then I can bounce around to just hone and like showcase the funny stuff. Whereas a story, I'm talking about like the story I'm doing right now, it's like 7 minutes. So having jokes throughout a 7-minute story, and then also it's like this is the storyline. So there's certain elements. It's like, you try to cut the stuff that maybe isn't funny, but also you can't cut important aspects of it. There's certain aspects, core parts of the story that you have to keep in there. And a lot of that stuff, you're like, this is a core part of the story, but you're trying to find a funny part to it, and you're like, I've tried. I don't know how to get a funny part. But because it's a core part of the story, you can't just remove that like you could in another type of joke, like I said with the chair. If I'm just talking about the topic of chairs, it's not a storyline that I have to follow. I can just bounce around and connect these like individual jokes about chairs into, what's called like a bit, where you just cram all those jokes together, and it's all in the same topic. People in the crowd probably wouldn't know, like, oh, you wrote these jokes separately maybe, and then just crammed them together. But with a story, you don't have the luxury of being able to do that. So that's just one of the many elements that makes it very difficult to do a story. And that's another reason why I'm super excited about this, because like 7 minutes, that's by far the longest story. I mean, I've only figured out a couple stories total, and I've the next closest story is a story about going to a party in high school, and it's 3.5 minutes long. So this being 7 minutes, which ultimately I may condense a little bit, but I do feel pretty comfortable with having most of the core parts of the story in there, having funny portions. So I don't know if I will have to take it out. Now, the interesting or kind of funny part about having a story that long is most open mics are 3-4 minutes long. So it's tough to work it out in its entirety at most of these open mics. And then also, like, a lot of shows that I'll be doing are 10-minute spots. And to have a 7-minute story of something that's new material take up like almost your entire set at a show is kind of a risky thing too. Because, especially in the early days, as you're kind of working it out, it's like, well, if I'm going to do almost my entire set with this new thing and they're not on board, or I don't deliver it how I want, or I kind of fumble through, that's, minus 70%. Okay? If you get a grade and 70% of it is they don't like, you go, well, now I'm just trying to get a 30%. Now I'm just trying to fail really badly with dignity. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm very, very excited. I know I say excited all the time, but it's been a minute since I've come up with something new that I'm very excited about. I've been doing a lot of editing, and I've been doing a decent amount of writing too, but a lot of the changes and things that I feel like I'm creating are more changes or edits on old jokes that I'm tightening up or adding to, versus here's a new idea, new story, new joke that blossomed from nothing, So that feels good to have that. And stories are just it's a different thing too. So I feel like I've been trying to do more stories, which is a different structure, and it's different, like the algorithm of writing or the formula of writing a story is just different. There's similarities for sure, but it's also different in a lot of ways from regular jokes. So I feel like I need to keep practicing, whether I'm writing stories or not, keep practicing just writing as an exercise, just on whatever topic, to keep that formula kind of in my head. Because, if you go without doing it for a bit of time, your brain, it's just like a language, honestly. Like when you learn a language, if you're not using it all the time, you kind of starts to fade a little bit. Same with joke writing. Like your brain starts writing in this formula that you've put a lot of time in. You start seeing these, okay, this is a formula, set up, punchline, tag, like how you can get there, the different tricks you can use and have in your tool belt. But just like a language, if you're not writing every day or all the time, if you take a couple weeks off, you can go down pen to paper and kind of be like, what am I doing here? And it just takes a little bit for that to come back. So need to get back in the routine of that. But with stories, it is I've realized more than ever here recently that it's a different writing process. I mean, so much of it is the delivery and the energy you have and the cadence you have and the building the tension and the timing. And then a lot of like organic things. You're like describing what happened, and that's the funny thing. You're like, this happened, that's funny, and maybe you use some analogies, and you use elements of regular joke writing in storytelling as well. But it's not so much like set up punch. It's very organic stuff. Which I feel like I try to kind of write like that in a way too with my joke writing. I'm not necessarily like set up, punchline, and then like some random misdirect. A lot of it is kind of, trying to be silly and goofy and organic. But all that said, I've just confused everybody, including myself, as far as this is Ben's 5 confusing ways to write a story, where you listen to it and you're like, I still don't understand what he's saying. But very excited. Stay tuned. I'm getting genuinely, I'm looking forward to the next 12 months. I am. I've got I feel very confident and comfortable with where I'm at in this career and with my joke writing and with my set right now. I feel like I feel like adding this joke to my set list, I think is going to get me pretty close to having a very strong 30 minutes. I've done 30 on the road quite a bit. I've done long sets, and I can do longer than that, but I'm talking about like, I think this is a good 30 minutes. You want me to do 45? Sure, I'll do 45, and 15 or 20 they'll be jokes, quote unquote. They won't be great. But with this story and with the work I've put into kind of putting together a set list and an order that has the good ebbs and flows, I'm feeling good about that. And I think at some point here in the next year, I'll probably try to record something on video. Now I don't know that I'll put it out. I need to like record something more professionally to be able to submit to clubs and stuff for a longer length set. But I do think here at a certain point, I'll do a recording, audio and video, or one or the other. I guess if you do video, you'll also have audio. But to maybe put out something for the viewers, for you guys, and for hopefully more people to be able to watch. And then with the audio, you can put that out and then maybe make some money if you get it on the radio or Sirius, Spotify, Pandora, whatever the places are. I just had a good comic buddy, a good buddy who's a comic, record an album. Two buddies, but I only talked to one of them about the experience, and it's very exciting to hear people, your peers, doing big things, and to hear their experience through it. And I mean that it's very motivating, but it's also very cool to see people above you doing that, and then you're like, oh, it can be done. This is how they did it. And I can do it. Like, just having somebody around you who does the thing is such a powerful, useful mechanism and tool for anybody, whether it's comedy or sports or jobs. Like, if I grew up around a lot of people, I mean, I probably did. I just never talked about this with adults when I was a kid. But like, if I grew up around people who were talking about the jobs they had, and I heard a lot of different options, I would have had a much clearer idea of maybe what I wanted to do. Just because maybe somebody was like, hey, I do this job. This is kind of what it looks like. And then, in my mind, I can go, oh, I can envision that. I can maybe do that one day. But I didn't really have so much of that. Same thing with comedy. I wanted to do comedy, I mean, probably as early as high school, definitely by the time I got to college. But I wasn't around anybody who was a comedian. I don't even think I was around anybody who'd ever like done an open mic. I didn't know the process at all. So having those people around you, having buddies who are full-time comedians who are doing the thing, I mean, just really pushing it, it's very motivating, and it's very awesome to hear them and get advice from them, to understand like specific steps that I can take to do the things that they're doing. So it's super helpful. It's super motivating. Listen to a little bit, listen to a couple tracks of the album, and it sounds good. It sounds very, honestly, it was really cool to hear. Just like, oh, dude, that's no different than any album you hear. Any comedy album, you put it on, you go, oh, comedian getting laughs at a club, good quality, good jokes. Pretty cool to see. So looking at maybe doing that here in the next 12 months. Like I said, I don't want to do it prematurely, but I do feel like, especially if this story does as well as I think it might be able to. Like I said, I'm very excited for it, but it's very new, so I don't have the data on it yet, whether audiences are like fully on board or not. But I think it feels like it's getting there. So once I get the time, I'll probably look at filming something. Let me know. I mean, you guys probably aren't. Well, let me know. Comment. This is the one question I have for you guys. Leave a comment, whether it's YouTube or Spotify, wherever it's on. If I were to record something, say a 30-minute album or a 30-minute video, would you all, or do you think, whether it's you or other people, would you all pay if I put it out for like, hey, pay $10 to watch this? Or I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably just put it on YouTube. You know what? Scratch that question. Why would I feel pretentious even asking that? Would you guys pay? Would you? I'm very frugal, and I'm saving up money, and I've got some money that I'm pocketing specifically for something like this. So I'll put it out there. Okay. Would you guys pay to see it earlier? Maybe I'll say that. Maybe I'll do that question just to flip-flop 3 times in a row. But no, very, very exciting stuff with just the future of what I've got going on. Looking at, hopefully, I've said it before, but trying to set up a bunch of headlining stuff next year out on the road and try to flex that muscle and really just take all the stuff I've learned, all the material, and go put it to the test. Headlining is a different thing. You're doing more time. It's at the end of the show. You got to bring the heat. Got to probably learn how to sell merch. So there's a lot of things that I'll have to learn, but I'm looking forward to it. I've said it a million times. I hate repeating myself, but the more that I keep my diet in check, and the more that I just keep working and have more energy and just mental clarity and positive thinking, um, the more that I just gain confidence in, like, this is what I want to do. I know I can do it, and I am doing it. But I just taking those steps to keep climbing, I guess you could say. So, yeah, there's just a whole big rant. I don't even know what I've been talking about. I've been bouncing around. But I'll give you guys a little. So there's the good stuff. You guys want to hear some juicy, not good stuff? Buckle up. So last week I did only one show, I guess. I did a show at Sushi High, which is like a basement sushi restaurant, and it was very fun. It was a very fun show. It was I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 people, not a ton of people. But they were there to listen and to laugh. And honestly, I've said it a million times before, but rooms like that, whether it's 100 people or 10 people, trying to get more in the mindset of entertaining people no matter what is very important, and something that I try to embrace that challenge. There's some comics and some people, and I've been here as well throughout my time doing comedy, but sometimes you're just like, ugh, this is what a waste, or this is a bummer, I don't want to do this. But the more I've tried to switch my mindset to, like, hey, whatever this is, if this is 100 people and I just get to do the jokes and crush, or if this is 4 people and I have to just like pivot and, not do as many jokes, just be like silly and goofy and in the moment to try to entertain people, then learn to pivot, learn to figure it out. And in order to learn, you got to fail. So, I'm not saying I'm 100% on these types of shows, but you gotta adapt. And so those are good shows to do. And honestly, 15 people is fine. Like, I've done so many shows where it's 2, 4, 6 people, and they're not even there to like pay attention. This was 10, 15 people that were like there to watch comedy, and they had a good time. Sometimes you're like, all right, there's 3 people and none of them knew a comedy show was happening. So that's a very interesting one. But that was Thursday. Friday, I did another open mic, worked out that story. Then Saturday was second show that I was putting on, called the Wash Park Comedy Show. And it's at a community center. It's one that I've tried to build up. Last show, I was very stressed about it. I lost a couple $100. Got 40 tickets. Sold 40 tickets. So it was still a decent show, but just the overhead cost, everything about it's like I have to sell like 60, 65 tickets to kind of break even. And this time I dumped a bunch of money into advertising. The most I've ever put. I think I put like $300. $300 into ads. And long story short, almost nobody bought tickets, and I had to cancel the show. So I lost a lot of money. And that's okay. Because again, you got to fail sometimes you got to fail a lot to learn. So what did I learn? I learned that this show is canceled forever, and good riddance. No, I learned that yes, the show is canceled. It's too much of a risk to try to do it moving forward, and that's okay. Sometimes venues and places just don't work out. But I also learned that Facebook, you can't just throw money at Facebook ads and expect things to work. I need to diversify my marketing and advertising. I need to find different ways to reach people. And that's good. Got to figure it out. Got to learn. So that was a big L, and hurt a little bit, but also you live and you learn, and that was a big learning point. And we'll do better next time. Not at this venue, but next venue or venues that I worked with, I'll put more emphasis on diversifying that advertising and marketing, and I'll figure it out. I'll make sure. And also, it's just a good learning point on like, hey, it's probably not worth it to be with a venue where the risk is that high, where you have to sell 65 tickets just to break even. Okay, so if you do the math, $10 a ticket, I need to get $650. I have $650 worth of overhead, essentially. And it's like, I'm not a baller like that. I can't be doing that. So good to know. And moving forward, I'll keep that in mind. Also, just on the road, it's been easier to sell tickets in these cities where it's not super saturated. But as I get into bigger cities to do comedy and set up shows, or just in general, as these smaller cities gain more entertainment, or whatever the case is, if I have to, it's me versus a Friday night high school football team, and I got to figure out how, like, sometimes I'm going into this city when they have like other big events. How do I get their attention to buy a ticket to my thing? Good to know. Got to be quick on your feet. I'll have to learn from that, and I will learn. But yeah, there's ending it on a big L, but a good learning moment. I rambled about a million different things. Hope you guys, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. I've got this week, I'm doing New Talent Night on Tuesday, which this will come out on Wednesday, so I will already have done New Talent Night on Tuesday at Comedy Works. But this weekend, October 20th and 21st, I'll be at the Denver Comedy Lounge doing 5 shows there, I think. So if you're in Denver, if you're listening to this and you're looking for something to do this weekend, check that out. Come to a show, say hello. But yeah, I will end it there. Thank you guys so much for listening this week, and I will see you guys again next week.